My name is Kristen Weaver. I am the Mayor Pro Tem. I have been serving on City Council in that role since 2021. I started coming to Greenbelt council meetings and work sessions to find out what was happening with the walking path from Greenbelt Station, where I live, to the metro. And I was just curious what was happening because that was one of the reasons we bought in that neighborhood. And sort of that started getting me involved in things. And then I just enjoyed the civic life. I applied for Park and Recreation Advisory Board and just getting involved with the composting at Spring Hill Lake Rec Center, and just started seeing all the things that were happening in Greenbelt and wanted to become more involved. Yeah, so sort of a fun story is my parents actually met on a political campaign in 1972. I have always been involved in campaigns, and I remember stuffing envelopes at a campaign office as like a second grader. So I think that it's something that I was always interested in. I was a teacher. I taught middle school a couple years in Denver and then in Montgomery County. And my original plan was to run for school board in Denver after I'd been there for a while. And then I moved out here and taught, but then also started realizing that I liked the broader aspects of city council a little bit more, and sort of the localized nature of focusing on Greenbelt a little bit more. If I had to time travel, that's an interesting question. I can actually see appeal to both, because I think being able to experience moments in history would be really cool. But as a science fiction fan and a big Star Trek fan, I think I would probably want to go to the future and see if that future world turned out anything like we predicted it to be. I would love to have transporters. I think if that would be a technology, the ability to instantly go to different places would make it a lot easier to visit all the places around the world I'd love to visit. Oh, that's an interesting, my favorite local spot in Greenbelt. I like a lot of different things at different times. I mean, I think the obvious answer is the New Deal Cafe, but I think I don't go for music all that often. But what I like about the New Deal is when I go in there and sit, there are people, especially now after I've been in town for a while, there are people that I know that I can say hello to, and I like that familiarity. But I think also things like just walking or being able to walk around Buddy Attic Park. In my neighborhood, there's a little pond, a little path that I can go walk around, and that's really nice and meditative. I don't think I have one favorite spot. I think I like different places depending on my mood. If I had a free weekend and no obligations, I think some of that might depend on the weather. If it's a rainy day like today, I'm probably home, maybe sitting on my couch, maybe sitting at the table building a Lego set or something like that. I think if it's nicer weather, I'm more likely to want to go out and about. I think one of the things I was amazed at moving out from Colorado, I had sort of this preconception about the East Coast, is that there's so many more people, it's so much built up, there aren't going to be like natural areas. And then you go and there are places like Greenbelt Park or Patuxent Wildlife Refuge, or even like our own forest preserve, that are actually like little hikes that you can do that are really close by. And I think that surprised me as someone from Colorado with lots of like big, large public outdoor spaces, and I didn't expect to find those when I moved out here. Do I have a comfort? So one of my the meal I would always request for my birthday growing up was chicken and dumplings. So that's one of the things, the way my mom made it, with the sort of chicken soup and then like steamed dumplings on the top. So that's still somewhat of a go-to. If I were stranded on a desert island, I think I would like to have a pocket knife with a saw attachment, because I think that seems like the most versatile and practical. You can cut down limbs for making your shelter. You might be able to cut open something to collect water. A metal tool implement like a pocket knife is what I'd want to have. I love how weird Greenbelt is. And I love that there has been that something that is an ordinary object can gain such attention and people just have fun with it. However, truthfully, I wish we could bury all of the utility lines and not have power lines visible at all. But that's impractical because it's way too expensive. You could have ceremonial utility poles, not practical ones, but yes. I don't know that I have a favorite quirk in Greenbelt, but I do like that it seems to be opening and accepting of lots of different people. And I think one of the things where I grew up, the neighborhood that I grew up in, was less quirky, but we knew the neighbors and we would do like neighborhood parties and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that I liked coming to Greenbelt, was that people did that sort of thing that I hadn't experienced in between in places that I lived in apartments and other places, that people actually knew their neighbors and got together. And although my neighborhood in Greenbelt Station was new, we still tried to develop some of that. I think I wish people understood the complexity of government, and there's a lot of layers, and that many people have their issue that they're really interested in, and that's what they're most passionate about. But when you're on council or working as a staff, you have to balance everybody's passionate issues. And so that although, yes, I understand that issue is really important to you, but this other issue is really important to somebody else. And so you're not always going to get the answer that you want, because we're trying to see as best as possible the big picture and balance and make it good for everybody, if perfect for nobody, but good for everybody. I think societally we're facing a lot of issues right now. We've got a lot of turmoil in the federal government. We've got a lot of changes that have been happening that impact our residents in terms of changes in government agencies, people losing their individual jobs. I think that's going to affect our budget, and I think that's going to be a challenge. That people have a lot of expectations for what the city provides, and I think we do a good job of providing services, but all of those things cost time and money, and how do we balance that when potentially the economy isn't necessarily in the greatest place? Things are changing. Some of the resources we had in terms of federal money, like the American Rescue Plan Act, other grants and things, are not necessarily as available. It's just going to be difficult to balance everything, I think, over the next few years. I would hope that looking back, my time on council, that I've helped bring some organization internally to council. That was actually one of my goals, was to try to make some of our processes a little bit better and document them a little bit better. I think I came onto council as somebody new when there hadn't been a lot of turnover for a while. And so helping understand not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it. And creating those structures that hopefully can go on longer than I'm on council. Planning for the future, that we're not just thinking about the immediate projects, but we've got a lot of opportunities. We have the armory space, we have still the potential of the FBI that might still come, and think there are potential changes for Greenbelt, and I think we need to figure out how to develop those things in a way that keeps what we like about the city, that it is possible to move forward and do wonderful, exciting things while still thinking about what are the most important things that make Greenbelt, and how can new things support that vision while still not staying stagnant. I think hearing more from the underrepresented voices is truly a challenge, because we have a few people who come and talk to us a lot. I think part of that needs to be rethinking how we reach out to people, and not necessarily expecting people to come to us. I was so pleased with the turnout, the increased turnout in this last election. I think we need to figure out how to maintain that and figure out what drew people in. How do we keep their interest in local government, and how do we improve that? Something that we're trying, these meet and greets, we did the first one here in council chambers, but the idea is to have those events out in other parts of the community, going to where people are, not expecting them to come to us. And that might mean not physically, that might also mean in digitally and electronically, getting other ways to get feedback from people. I think success in 2 years looks to me like having weathered some of this uncertainty that we're going through sort of as a society collectively. I think other things specifically that I want to work on are some things related to planning, and that we have a plan for whether the armory will not be built in 2 years, but I hope that by then we have a plan for it. There's also some areas I'm interested in, some better interconnections around the city, including with transportation and things. I could get into lots of granular things. I'd like to see the city have more of a footprint and a presence in the Greenbelt East and Greenbelt West, because we have so many great facilities here in the center, and that's because we have the buildings and the place to hold programs. What can we do to increase the ability to do programming and events in the other parts of the city, whether that means city-owned buildings or renting buildings or working with existing facilities there. But I would like us to spread and have more of a presence in all of Greenbelt, not just the beautiful historically designed center.